Hey mama, welcome back to Free Mama Radio. I'm still on the road with my family, driving around the country this summer in an RV and a Jeep now. Long story, we won't get into today's episode, but I am here with a two-part episode. That means this week and next week, answering your questions if you are looking to start a freelancing business while still juggling a full-time job. If that's you, listen up, because we are going to unpack the logistics of what you need to worry about, as well as the mindset stuff you need to focus on in order to transition from being an employee to a business owner. You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers. You guys are so active inside of our Facebook group and on my Instagram, and I just love it. So if you are not already hanging out with us there, this is your invitation to connect with me on social media. I am on my phone every day, engaging with you all, answering your questions, and making sure that you are feeling supported on your free mama journey. So make sure you are a part of our community. You should not and do not have to do this all by yourself. Isn't life hard enough? You need a family of free mamas around you. But today's episode is specifically inspired by a question that one of you wrote in. And that is, Dear Lauren, I'd love an episode of Free Mama Radio about starting your business while still having a 9-to-5. That is my biggest struggle. How to start doing VA work while juggling a full-time job and an almost 1-year-old. First of all, I just want to say kudos to you for rocking it out with a 1-year-old, because that's just exhausting enough. But here's the deal. I want to unpack a couple of things, because I started my own freelancing journey while being a working mom. At the time that I started freelancing specifically, I actually had 2 kids 2 and under. So Daphne had just turned 2. Henry was a newborn when I discovered the world of freelancing. And so you could say that my life was very busy. I don't love the word busy, but the reality was my time was full. Like we were busy. We were struggling. We were exhausted. We were not getting full nights of sleep. I say we. I'll go ahead and let my husband in on this, but also my children. Like, we, as in I, was not functioning at my highest capacity by any stretch of the imagination. So when we start talking about starting a business while working full-time, I think the number one thing is you have got to make sure that you really want this, because the truth is, for a while, until you transition to doing your business full-time, which can happen as quickly or as long as really it takes you to show up fully, it's going to be challenging. You're going to have to make sacrifices, and anybody who tells you differently is just not telling you the truth. You might have to wake up a little bit earlier. You might have to stop taking lunch breaks with your friends or colleagues at work and dedicate that time to growing your business. You might have to stay up a little bit later at night. You might have to give up your Netflix binges. You might have to start working on the weekend. There's going to be sacrifices that have to be made because you're adding something to your schedule in your life that previously wasn't there. But much like transitioning from just having my oldest daughter, Daphne, to then having 2 children and going like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. She's so time consuming. Like, we just do it. Why? Because you love your children. If you love the idea of being home and starting your own freelancing business, and you're as committed to that as you are your family, or even for your family, then it's possible. But it is going to require you to get creative, to carve out more time in your schedule to get yourself up and running. Now, I'm guessing that this particular listener did not write in for help with this because of wondering about time. Now, that's possible, and I have a lot of resources about time management. I use a tool called the Daily 5. There are plenty of Free Mama TV episodes if you want to go over to my YouTube channel and check out anything related to time management or productivity. But I think the biggest block that gets people who are working their full-time job is, how will I show up online talking about my business when I still have a job? And the first thing I usually tell people inside of our Facebook community is, if you were signing up for an MLM, if you were going to start selling leggings or skincare or jewelry, would you have the same concerns about marketing your business online as you do when you decide you are going to start a freelancing business with the goal of leaving your job? And 99.9% of the time, people are like, oh my gosh, like, no. In fact, I know a lot of my colleagues are in network marketing companies. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So your long-term goals about leaving your job are not relevant to whether or not you should start marketing your business. But let me tell you what is relevant to whether or not you should start marketing your business. And that is your company's HR policy on holding a side gig or a second job. So the second thing I ask people is, what are the logistics? Let's make sure you've actually dotted your I's and crossed your T's. If you have an HR representative at your company, if you work for a bigger company or corporation, I really suggest going and talking to someone and asking. The truth is, in today's economy, most families rely on 2, if not 3 incomes. So it is not uncommon for people to hold multiple jobs just to make ends meet. And if you're a mom, meaning you're providing for a family, I think that's even more of an expectation, although I would argue that's a very sad expectation we've created in our society, that we should have to work that much. But neither here nor there. The first step is get your employee handbook, sit down with someone from HR, or approach a manager or boss about the situation and have an honest conversation. Know what is considered acceptable at your job so that you can start your freelancing business knowing that you're not doing anything wrong. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, is it possible that I am doing something wrong? It is unlikely in most jobs that having a side gig is not allowed. That's not terribly common. However, what could be an issue is if you are coming from a career where you are doing similar tasks as what you would like to start in your freelancing business. Now, I think a couple of the most common examples I can think of with this would be accounting or social media management or marketing. So if you're working for a marketing agency as a social media manager, and you're wanting to start doing social media management on the side, there could be what's called a conflict of interest. Again, I think it's really important that you start with the facts, and the facts are what can be found inside of your employee handbook. So make sure you know whether or not you're actually doing something wrong, rather than focusing on the guilt that you might be feeling because you know that your long-term intentions are to resign from your position. Okay, now that we have established what it says inside your employee handbook, some of you I know are still going to be really nervous about announcing your business or talking to your manager or posting about it online or updating your LinkedIn or your Facebook. And I understand that. I really, really do. I do want to remind you though that my very first social media management client was my boss's, at the time, my current boss's, her husband. So if she hadn't known that I was starting to do social media management on the side, I wouldn't have gotten that first client so rapidly. So I think we have to really distinguish between, what are the stories we're making up about what other people might say or think or do as a result of hearing that we're starting this business versus what are the actual facts, and not letting those stories run wild. For anybody who is in that position where you need to sit down and have a conversation so that you can start marketing your business, even though on paper you're not doing anything wrong, you're still hesitant because of the players involved, let me just give you some tips. Number one, they want to know that when it comes to working for them, whether it's the head of the company or just your manager, your boss, they want to know that when you're there, you're there. And for the record, you need to be there when you're there. And I don't mean physically, I mean mentally, right? It's really important that when you are on the clock for your job, that you show up for them 100%. The last thing you want to do is burn a bridge before you leave, because you never know what opportunities are lying down the road because of those relationships and the people in your current professional network. So giving them the assurance that this is something you are doing on the side, meaning on your own time, not on their clock, is going to be one of the most important things to them. And I think by being proactive and addressing that up front and giving them the confidence that this is something that is completely separate, it's not going to interfere with your ability to exceed their expectations at work, is really going to bridge that trust, and it could be a potential source of referrals for you sooner than later as well. And then lastly, one of the things that I actually teach inside of the Free Mama Movement, my 12-week program, is how to turn your previous employer into your highest paying client. Now, this obviously is not something that every single person can do, depending on what your current job is and what services you'd like to provide in your freelancing business. But I do want to just plant that seed that for quite a few people, there is opportunity for outsourcing, even if it is different than what you're currently doing in your full-time role. So it's super important that you are building that trust and those expectations and those healthy boundaries around your full-time work and your business from the beginning, because you don't know what potential lies ahead in the future as you get closer to achieving your goals of leaving the job full-time. Okay, mama, now that we have covered all the logistics, you know what your employee handbook has said, you've communicated with HR, possibly filled out a form, discussed this with your manager, it's time to take it to the internet, my friends. We are running virtual businesses, and so our virtual footprint has got to start to reflect what we are building on our own and not just what we are a part of that's building someone else's dream. So there's a lot of resistance when working a 9-to-5 to optimizing your Facebook page. I do have a YouTube video for that, to changing your LinkedIn profile to have keywords that match virtual assistants or bookkeeper or social media manager or copywriter or online business manager. We want to make sure that we have our power pitch out there on social media as well, that we are engaging in groups, and that when we're out networking online across various platforms, that when people come back to our personal profile, yes, your personal profile, that they quickly know what you do and know how they can connect with you. Now, one of the biggest excuses I hear about why people don't do this is because of their full-time job. But my hope is that through this episode, as well as part 2, which you'll be able to catch next week, that you will know that you are prepared to go ahead and start putting yourself out there now, which is going to put you one step closer to reaching your free mama goals. I'll see you next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.